Before we start this podcast, I want to definitely remind you of a sponsor for Fresh of the Word, 20 by 20 Apparel. Founded in 2015, 20 by 20 Apparel brings original tributes to pro wrestling's classic arenas, moments, and events. They look to spotlight the bloopers, bleeps, and body slams along with the biggest, smallest, strangest, and strongest. In the world of wrestling where there's hundreds of shirts, promotions, flyers, social media accounts, and ads, don't get lost in the sea of parody shirts and display fonts. They can provide professional graphic design services at a reasonable price. 20 by 20 also hand screen prints all the tees in-house. So if you'd like to discuss a possible run of tees, posters, koozies, foam fingers, or even Zubaz, then drop them a line at 20by20apparel.com. That's the number 20x, the number 20apparel.com. And also check out their enamel pin line. It's super cool.
Fresh is the word.
Welcome to the Fresh is the Word podcast. I'm your host, Kelly K. Fresh Frazier. And like always, we have the freshest of guests for you. The guest for this episode is Richard Sjunnesson, the vocalist from the Swedish melodic death metal band The Unguided, and they just released their new full-length album, Father Shadow, via Napalm Records. We get into how the band functions, fine-tuning their method of operation of writing and recording for the new album after a history of lineup changes, and how The Unguided was birthed out of Richard and his bandmate Roger Sjunneson's previous band, Sonic Syndicate. With Father Shadow, The Unguided go back to their harder roots, blurring the lines between melodic death metal and this metalcore sound. And as a treat for their old fans, they did do cover versions of their own classic Sonic Syndicate tracks, Jailbreak, Denied, and Jack of Diamonds. So before we get into this interview with Richard Sjunnesson, just a little update on what I've been doing. I'm just trying to close out the year with everything that I already have recorded for the podcast. I'm really not doing anything. I'm not really doing any more recording for the rest of the year. I need kind of like a break from talking. Through this whole election here in the States, like all you do is hear people talk. We're just talk. And we're going through this pandemic where we're not connecting with people, but you just hear people talking. So I just need a break from talking to people. But then also here in Michigan, we're kind of going into another lockdown this week for at least 3 weeks because the COVID cases are on the rise again, spiking again, and hopefully we can just bunker down, man, and get through this. It's nuts, but I'm used to just chilling at the crib, and I've been doing my Marie Kondo thing, man, just kind of getting rid of stuff that doesn't bring me joy. It all started with reorganizing my record collection, and now I'm doing all these different things around the crib that I'm reorganizing everything, and I keep adding things to reorganize before I finish the previous ones. My latest addition is reorganizing my digital music library on my laptop, which I was able to find a great program on my for a Mac called Strawberry. That's a a digital file player. It has a great interface where I can easily I can get rid of doubles that I have files of. I can go ahead and add, search for album artwork. I can really easily, correct the, the ID3 tags and update those. And I have everything pretty much. I pretty much have everything that's on my computer and on my externals all linked up into that program now. So I'm just kind of going through and trying to, little by little. It's like I'm at a computer company. I'm just just typing away at things But I'm gonna try to get rid of stuff that I'm like, okay, why do I'm not gonna listen to this. I'm gonna trim down my digital library because I got all these MP3s and stuff, and I it got to the point where I don't do anything with them because it was just like I don't even listen to them. I'm like, I'm so glad that that Bandcamp has a Google Chromecast integration into the mobile app, so I can stream all that stuff, directly from my phone, that I get off Bandcamp, right to my Chrome, to my TV and stuff like that. So that's cool. But like I want to be able to, listen to a lot of these like stuff that isn't on streaming that like I have MP3s of, but it was just like everything's a mess, not organized. But I'm gonna get there, and shout out to Strawberry. It's a little glitchy because sometimes it'll just like, it'll close out on me, but like, it's what I need right now, so I can deal with it. But it could use a little TLC programming wise, but for what I need, what I want right now to organize everything, it's pretty dope. I like it. I like it. All right, that's about it for this, for my little whatever. Catching you up on what's going on in my life. I guess we have a new president here in the states. We'll see what batshit crazy shit happens, from now until the inauguration. In this transition, it's crazy, but everybody, please, wherever you're at, states, overseas. I know other places are getting locked down. Be safe. Wear your mask. Please, just let's get out of this pandemic thing. um, Cause I want to go back to concerts again, and I want to go have sex without thinking I'm gonna die from coronavirus. All right. After a short word from our sponsor, we'll get into this interview with Richard Quinnesson from the band The Unguided. All right, welcome back to the Fresh of the Word podcast. And like always, we have the freshest of guests for you. And my guest for this episode is Richard Quinnesson. He is the vocalist of the metalcore band The Unguided. They're from Sweden. They have a new album out. It's called Father Shadow via Napalm Records. Hi, Richard. How you doing today?
Hi, it's good to talk to you. It's actually pretty good pronunciation on the short name. Most of the time, people don't get it nailed down. So,
well, good.
Sjunnesson.
I'm happy that I was able to do that. I'm pretty after a while, after a few tries, I'm pretty good at like pronouncing stuff. So I listen to a lot of different, music from around the world. I watch like professional wrestling from Japan, and I watch MMA. So there's a lot of, very complicated names and all of that.
Okay, so a broad range of. That's cool.
You guys got a new album out. It's called Father Shadow. What was sort of, what was sort of the mood of the band? What were you kind of, what was your ideas going into making this record?
First of all, we've been sitting on it for quite some while because we finished it up around March, and then the entire world went into fucking mayhem mode. So, and I think we talked with the label, and we had our original plan to release it in October, and we wanted to stick to that plan even if the world was a bit upside down. But for the writing of the music to the album, I think the lion's share was done around end of 2019 something, and all the instrumental parts were done in beginning of December 2019, and then I wrote all the lyrics for it during December, and then we hit the studio in January basically. I think that the motto of the band, because we picked up a lot of lessons from the last album and about Royale, and we had a bit of members change in the band, so it was a lot about working out a new routine and a new process in how we're going to approach this, as some new members are included. And I think we've just been very open-minded to everyone's songwriting styles and everyone's contribution to this one more than we ever been in the past. I think that's a great vibe motivation for everyone, and I also think like you can tell a bit when you're listening to the album now, and that the range is a bit wider than it's been on the previous record. So it was a bit of trial and error on the last one. I still like Annabelle Royale a lot. I love there's a lot of good songs on it, but the process was a bit fine-tuned on going into this one, and now everyone is like super tight in the band for this. I think you can tell a bit of the final product here.
Going through, having new members in the band, reading up on the history of the band, there's been times when people left, you had new people just due to creative differences. The previous iteration of this band with Sonic Syndicates, there's sort of like a creative differences thing that went on there. What sort of, how do you sort of balance, everybody's creativity, but then at what point, do you feel like, okay, this isn't working out and maybe we have to like try something new or try something new with another person,
Yeah, I think there's been a bit too much member change in this band from what I like. Like I really enjoy consistency in band and like strong bonds, but as it's like a professional hobby and it's not our life bread, it's it's hard to motivate that sometimes when people doesn't have as much time available, and I think that what's happened with both Roland and now recently Henrik leaving. I'm super happy that Jonathan came on board by the end of 2016 because it's a perfect fit for the band. But I think it still looks a bit, for 2 albums and there's 2 drop-offs. That's not how I prefer it. It's still a super friendly atmosphere between all of us. And I mean, we had the early change, or originally for the going in, or me leaving Sonic Syndicate, going into the Unguided, forming that with my brother and Roland back in 2010. That was mostly a project that the 3 of us, we enjoyed writing music together basically during the Sonic times. We thought we just continue to do that in another band basically. And then we added more members because we thought it was fun, and we got some live shows booked. So originally we had this Sonic Syndicate drummer in John, but he had 2 bands at that time, so he couldn't contribute fully to the new one. So that's when Rille came in, and then 3 albums deep into the band, Roland got a lot of responsibilities, both with his family and with his some important duties on his day job. So we couldn't contribute either to the tours and stuff, or fully to that. So that's when Jonathan was standing in a lot for him. We felt it was a bit unfair to the fans that they buy tickets to see the full band and then they get standing persons, especially on a key role like that, lead guitar and clean vocals. So that's when we did the whole switcheroo, and Jonathan came in full time in the band. And now more recently, it's Henrik, which left for this album, but that's been on brewing for quite some years because he haven't been able to do the tours with us for the same arguments, basically, like family and day jobs. So it's like the 4 of us that's in the band now have grown super tight over this time, because it's always us that ends up on the roads together. But when when it comes to creative differences, we are very unlike musical wise in the band, or what genres and stuff we kind of grew up with, or what generations we grew up with, or what generation of music we grew up with. And I actually think it's to our advantage, because it's like there's compromises every here and there, and it's like four stones knocking against each other, and the spark that comes from that is the Unguided in a way. Like all our different styles and mindsets and stuff is being blended into, and I think there's a fine line between where things get a bit too messy, like when everyone is calling the shots. So there's some structures around whose responsibilities or final say is whose in a way. And I mean, in bands, I think there should be one strong vision that's mutual or everyone is down with, and then everyone can contribute. But I think it's still important to stick to the formula and the vision that was originally intended for the band, and I think that's what we're doing as well, and everyone is very aware of that.
You know, in regards to your own life, how do you sort of balance your music life with any responsibilities that you have in your personal life?
I don't. I don't sleep. No, because I have a manager position in a pretty big company, and it's a department of 20 people, which I'm responsible for. We're doing it's like a electrical instrumental workshop, and that's my honest job, if that's what you like to tell me. And then during the evenings, it's like my other job is the band, and that's when I do spend most of the time working with band stuff, basically. The four of us, we have, as I said, different responsibilities in the band, and we also have a manager in Germany, but most of the time I'm doing a lot of that administrative work for the band, and tossing the inputs back and forth a bit with other people. So there's like structures to be able to handle this, and some people in the band have kids, and there's a lot of responsibilities with that. I and Jonathan, for example, don't have that, so we can spend a bit more time with work around the band. So it's about dosing around those or trying to figure out the balance around it. But basically, like for releases, like for the coming 2 weeks, I'm working from home, and just to be available as much as possible for like interviews or the launch, or damn, now I'm talking like the album is not released. But, okay, edit. So like the last couple of 2 weeks for me have been working from home, job wise, and then just to be available for everything regarding promoting the album and doing interviews, and just being accessible for both the label and the management as much as I can. So it's a bit situational. Of course, it's more hectic around album release and the months going in or coming up to album release. But this year has been a bit weird in every way. So I think it's quite a good balance. Anyway,
Most music artists, most bands are not really upfront about, if they have a day job or a career outside of music. How do you, does that lend any sort of freedom creatively with the band, knowing that, you have this paycheck elsewhere? And how do you sort of deal with, things that you have to do with the band when having a career outside of music?
I think that was what happened in Sonic in a way, that creativity had to take the passenger seat because we were on a strict schedule, both touring wise and album writing wise, and putting out new songs. While in the Unguided, because here's like we're spreading our risk with having, of course, there's an income from the job, but we don't tour as much as more. We would need to tour a bit more to be able to support 5 people, and even with that, it's not anywhere close what I do in like a manager position. So it's almost like it's the other way around. Like my day job is a great asset for me, giving back to the Unguided in a way, and I can buy everything that I need or what we need in the band from that. And I think the other people have the same mentality, and so for all the earnings in the band, we just reinvest that directly instead of taking that out on the or paying members in the band basically, and everyone have that mindset. So for us, it's a pretty natural way of handling our professional hobby, and it also makes us, we can write an album when we want, and when we have something to say, and when we feel creativity fulfilled, that's when we write something. so that's why it's a couple of years between the albums, and we don't need to force album out every year or every 2 years. It's more about, like, now we feel we have something to say, and then we can sit down and talk about it and write together such album. While in Sonic, it was more like you were sitting in a tour bus having 6 weeks of touring, and once that was done, you need to get in the studio. So you needed to write the album in the tour bus, basically.
Yeah.
And what you really wanted to do was to focus on the shows and do them as good as you can. But you also had, you needed to like push something out creativity-wise, but you felt pretty empty in that. Like you was not inspired sitting like in those positions and just having it like a pizza delivery order service in a way like that. But also we were 6 people plus management and booking, and everything needed was dependent on the finances of that band. So we needed to put out something, but it wasn't maybe like the art or the creativity stuff we needed. It was more of a quantity production, you know.
Yeah.
And I told myself during that time, especially during like the We Rule the Night session or the studio recording of that, like I'm never going to put myself in this situation again. Like a hobby should be a hobby, and you should be able to spend the time with it when you think it's fun and creative. And I think that's what we've done now. We made certain that Unguided is being like in that creative environment and always fun, and it's always great to meet up when we do it, and I think that spills over on the songs and on the art in a lot of way. Pretty long time about that, but yeah, it's like it's complete contrast from how it was done in Sonic, but then that was our income and that was our day job. And when a day job becomes, or when your hobby becomes a day job, there's like a fire that is distinguished in that, I think. And now we try to keep that fire burning and keep it fun.
Yeah, I think I think these days, and it's not really widespread, but you're seeing people where they're forced to get income in many different avenues, whether it's all entrepreneurship or whatever. But there's the old adage about the starving artist, or you got to be on the road every day or whatnot. But there's definitely people that are shining examples of, hey, I like doing music and I just want to contribute to music, but I support it by having a career outside of music. And that actually makes the music a lot better because they don't have they don't have to do all the things that you just said, like
No,
are
no,
forced to
exactly.
do it.
Mm. No, and especially like a year, this year when we were really lucky to have those structures in the band that we weren't fully dependent on the band, because when the pandemic hit and all shows were annihilated, it's pretty nice to have a job on the side of your music. So I know there's a lot of my music colleagues that are suffering and is still suffering during this year and trying to get around with being creative in different ways. But there's also a lot of people that needs to get like alternative jobs or go back to the job market just because the music can't be supported without live shows anymore. So for us this year, it's been a bit lucky in that regard.
you know Having that sort of structure with the band, being it as like like you said, a professional hobby, are you happy with where the band is, popularity wise, these days, even during this pandemic? Are you happy to where the band is these days?
Yeah, for sure. Like I've seen the response to the two singles we released so far for the album, also the EP last year with Seth and Gaia. The response has been incredibly good, and also we've seen streams are going up. We're like all-time high on our Spotify streams, for example, and it seems like there's some staying power in that as well, because it's biting it, or because usually what happens is like it's a bump when the single release and then it goes down slowly, But now it bite itself onto that threshold in a way, and you can see there is like clear staying power in that. So it's, I think there's a lot of boredness and quarantine people in the world that like new music and is ready to explore stuff like that as well. So I think that it's smart to release now in that way because streams are going up. But then on the other hand, it's a bit of a or it's a shame that you can't support your new album with tour or tying into a tour, because I think that's not going to happen until like fall next year or something.
Yeah.
Did I even answer your question?
No, it's fine. But being that this is a band that even before the pandemic, you didn't tour as much as
Oh yeah, yeah.
early, like early on,
Yeah.
the previous band or earlier on. What with that, how do you sort of supplement like the reach out of your music to the audience, to the fans? Like, how do you kind of keep yourself out there all these years when you're not touring as much as maybe other bands?
No, that's right. Your question was if I'm okay with how far we've gone with the band.
Yeah.
And yeah, of course it's a big difference to Sonic Syndicate. And to be fair, going into the Unguided, we had no expectations whatsoever. Like, we just wanted to write music for ourselves, the music we like to listen to ourselves, and that's what we did. And then it catched on, and I think it catched on more than we expected initially, because in Sonic we hit the market with that music in a perfect time. Everything like was aligned for that product or that the entire style of the band and the style of the music and how much we toured. We had those great support tours with both In Flames and Nightwish and stuff. It just catched on a lot and brought Sonic to or skyrocketed Sonic to what today feels a bit unreal levels. Like it went pretty fast, and you didn't have time to sit down and reflect over that. It's now that I can think this is hard to do something like that, and we were very lucky to be able to do that. And I mean, we sort of continue with the same music a bit going into the Unguided. Of course, it's got its own style, but it's doing that those 5 years later was a bit dated. Like the trends in metal was going a bit the other way, and so we realized that it might not have the same impact, and especially that we weren't able to tour that much, or wouldn't be able to tour that much, would limit the band's success as well. But being 5 albums deep in the band, that's more than I could ask for. The original plan was 3 albums, and that went pretty fast. We were done with that 2016 already, and now we have 2 more under the belt with our new singer guitarist, and we have plans for around 3 more albums, and already started working in those directions. So it is successful, and we have a pretty hardcore fan base which we can rely on a lot. And I guess that's what we write music for ourselves, but we're pretty in line with our hardcore fans, and they trust us in that, and I think they're gonna support us as long as we stay true to that formula in a way. And also like having a sensitive singer switch in the middle of all that, and that must be considered very successful, how it was executed, and how it also like how it didn't backfire on the band in any ways. Like the sales and the streams are going up even after that. So it was a bit uncertain years, of course, but we can see clearly now that we made some good decisions, and that it was the right way for the band, definitely. But I don't expect it's going to be as successful with the configuration we have as Sonic wherever. and besides, we're not getting younger either. So
Right.
I think the metal scene likes to see some younger talents taking those spots instead of us.
You know, how do you balance making the music that you want to make without falling into, you know, any trends that are happening in metal?
I think we're following trends, or like me, I'm an explorer of music. I listen to like one new metal album every day just to see what's going on in the business and see what's going in the trend, because I'm super interested in that. So I basically just like check up all releases coming out, and I take one album a day just to digest it. And there's a lot of weird things coming out, but there's also a lot of good things. And every now and then you hit like you hit pay dirt with something that's like, could be pretty revolutionary, you know, in the scene. And as everyone in the band is really open-minded to what we like we like heavy stuff, but we also like big melodies and hooks. So we try to balance that in a way, and see that the Unguided is all about. It's always going to be a metal band in that regard, but we're not trying to try elements from other genres, or doing like hookier stuff just to be true to metal or whatever. We just want to write good songs, or make the best of the songs we can possibly create. And I don't think like we follow trends just for the sake of it. It's more like maybe we align together with like, this is something cool going on here, and then when we write music, it's channeled there a bit subconscious or naturally. Like
Right.
we can do it this way. But it's still, like, when all is said and done, I still think it sounds the Unguided. And also, like, as I said, there's 3 songwriters or music writers on this album. They get equal airtime on the entire album, and I still don't think like the album is. It's not inconsistent in any way, but there's a good range on it, you know. Yeah, we're interested in trends, but we don't, as I don't follow them just because they're trends. It's
Right.
more of maybe we implement them if there's a good moment in the song for something like that.
Yeah.
Mm.
On the new album, Father Shadow, you guys do include a few Sonic Syndicate covers, bonus tracks. What was the decision to do that?
We started to play Denied live in the Unguided around 2018, I think the summer there. So it was a bit of a surprise for the fans because we haven't played any Sonic songs for 8 years in the band, and I think the opinion around that, or the mindset around that was that we wanted to stand on our own feet with our own songs, with our own albums, before doing anything with like the old band at all, basically. And we felt 8 years in, 4 albums deep, maybe this is the right time to actually do it. And they were a great, like live wise, was a really energy and injection too, because we always rounded the shows up with those. Like the last song we played was a Sonic song, and the crowd was very, because they thought they would never get that in our band, basically, because we didn't do it for so long. And they just go completely crazy about it. That was fun, of course.
Right.
So on the tour and the Battle Royale, we added another one, Jack Diamonds, and then we had those on rotation for every night, basically. And when it came to album recording, we figured now when we play those songs, we have our own versions of them. We might as well record them as a bit of a treat for the fans. And we also added Jailbreak from Eden Fire because we know there's a following to that album, the first Sonic album. So basically what ended up on the album is every single from the first 3 albums. And we know there's like different Sonic fans that have a bit different opinions on the 3 first albums. So I think everyone is going to be happy about that.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
When with writing this album and like before the pandemic hit and having to wait all these months for it to be released, is there anything that you talked about, any topics that you talked about on this album that have sort of a new meaning, in this new world with the pandemic and all the things that kind of happened because of it?
Yeah, because I get that a lot, especially for the song Never Yield. It keeps coming back in interviews if that was about the pandemic. And I was like, yeah, I wish it was, but it was written in December. so it's not. But if you read up on it, it's actually like lyric-wise, it's got some, because I usually do some biblical references to the songs, or like I think the Bible is a bit of sci-fi, but I think people understand that they know their way around a lot of those stories, so it's pretty powerful to have some references from that. And that particular song was about the 4 horsemen in a way, and that was just like we ended up with being 4 members in the band, and we had some decisions whether we would continue in that way or we would not, and then we said, "Fuck, we are just gonna rule this out," like, and then it felt appropriate. But when I'm reading the lyrics and have the pandemic in mind, it's pretty meaningful there as well. So I guess like with all music, when you listen to it and whatever it means to you and whatever you read into the lyrics, that's what it's actually going to be in the end. So it doesn't need all the explanations all the time. I think it's just like if it accesses some good or bad feelings for you, then it's that's what it's going to be for you basically. But I haven't thought on the other content of the album if it's fits very well in the current situation. I think the War of Oceans was more about the whole global pollution, distress or that. And I mean the Corona or the pandemic had some great effects on that.
Yeah.
That was a lucky coincidence, I guess. And I think the world is going to look a bit different when we're out of this, and we'll see what happens if the economy will get back on feet. And I think nowadays it's looking quite all right, and people thought it was going to be worse than it is. That we're going into recessions or depressions and everything, and now when it's slowly opening up, I think it seems like it's more all right than what they first foresaw. So we'll see.
What's like sort of like the economical and political climate in Sweden right now?
Our translation of Fed is printing a lot of money, and they're supporting a lot of companies so they can continue to, because there's no like big unemployed wave in Sweden currently. I think it's been pretty handled well from both the political side and it's not called Federal Reserve, it's called Riksbank, but it's the same thing basically.
Yeah.
Our international bank. And I just think they practice now for 10 years since the finance crisis. So it would be shocking if they couldn't handle it better than they did 10 years ago or even more, 12 years ago when Lehman Brothers, or the whole bank crash and the whole world economy faltered. So it seemed like they were a bit better prepared. And I guess if you practice something for 10 years, you get better at it. Also the banks and the politicians. It's the only, I'm a bit disappointed in the whole culture side. There's a lot of, companies and sectors that get guidance in how to handle their business with the tweaks of ongoing pandemic, while the live scene or the entertainment scene or music artists, they are not getting any guidance at all. So that's just slowly dying.
Yeah.
And I think that's bullshit how that cannot be prioritized in this moment. Like I hear a lot of, people that's roadies or sound guys or whatever, all the logistics around a band and a tour, they're basically completely off the music business now to do other things, and I think they will not come back if it's not for really good reasons. So I think that's going to be a problem.
Yeah, the same thing's kind of happening here, like very much. Like the live events industry is at a complete halt with no help at all.
Yeah, I think and the whole scene is dying to get some guidance. Like, tell us how to handle this, and we'll do it. And I'm sure if the politicians and the scene itself can come up with some great guidelines to handle. In Sweden, it's ridiculous how restaurants can be open and they can have a couple of hundreds people if the tables are far away enough. But if there's artist on stage or someone with a guitar singing in that area, you can just then it's outlawed basically. Then you can't do it.
Yeah.
So it's like, what's the difference? People sitting eating, people sitting eating and enjoying some music. So it's a really odd way of handling that. And our culture minister is getting a lot of flack in regards of it, but it's no reactions. I think they talked about having 500 people or raising the bar from 50 to 500 people, but I think it was denied on the government side. So no luck so far.
Yeah, it's pretty much the same here. It's just a mess when it comes to the live events industry, and there's just no help, and we don't know, we don't know what venues are going to survive after this. So many venues have already closed up shop for forever, and it's really, it's really terrible, and getting no help at all.
No, I don't get that, and it's like equal much employment in that than in industry, or like I work in industry, and there's a lot of guidelines how to handle that, but there's completely nothing when it comes to doing culture-based things. So it's a bit weird way to approach it, and I think that's going to be a big thing when this is said and done, like how that was handled. We'll see. It will be a day of reckoning. I'm sure.
Right. With the new album Father Shadow, when you after you got done with this album, when you looked at it, before the whole pandemic hits, what did you feel like? What was your feelings about the final product, and what was your sort of feelings about what you were able to succeed on with doing this album, maybe in comparison to the previous albums?
Yes, as said previously, like the and Battle Royale albums, the previous one was a bit of trial and error, and I think we did a lot of things right on this one. We also wanted a bit different approach sound wise or like more how it's mixed and mastered, and we wanted a bit heavier product, and also a bit grittier. So we selected Buster Odeholm from Impact Studios to handle the mixing on this one, and he's been, like, his history, it's based around doing a lot of heavy shit.
Yeah.
Basically. While the previous ones we've done have been more like modern metal producers in a way. So I think that brought a bit more edge to the entire production, and some songs are in themselves heavier, and I think that was just like a mindset we had for the entire album, that we wanted a bit to have it a bit more in your face, not as polished as the other ones. So that's I think that made us sound better than it did on the previous one, that factor. But I think we're all super happy about the entire production, like the final product and how it came out. It was pretty stressed because we had the entire year of 2019 to write the album, but we piled up the writing sessions towards the end of the year anyway. That's like how it tends to work. We need to book a studio to get the pressure going, and then because the way we work is that we do all the instrumentals first, and then I write the lyrics and do the vocal arrangements together with Jonathan. So and that was done, as said. We had sketches of songs, but they were completely done around December last year, and then I had a couple of weeks to write the lyrics, and then it was recording time for that. That was tight. We said, I know going into 2019, we said, like, we have the entire year to just write as much as we want and do the best album ever, but then we just consolidated it to the last month anyway.
Always happens like that.
Yeah,
we'll get to it.
That's good for us. It's like some positive pressure needs to be. We need to book the studio and have some, markers.
Yeah, even when you give yourself a lot of freedom and time, you still need that little bit of a, yeah, like you said, positive pressure, that
Yeah,
deadline.
that
You
way.
still need that little pressure
Yeah,
to exist.
yeah, yeah. Or else I know everyone is just absorbed into their normal lives, and we just think like, nah, we can do that tomorrow.
Right.
but what, but once the studio is approaching, then it's like, damn, we should have something finished for this.
Yeah.
But we
Okay.
had some songs also, like the ballad, for example, that was instrumentally it was done last album, but we took the decision that we saved that for upcoming album because we thought it. I don't know if how read up you are on the whole Sonic situation there, but we figured with the singer change, we thought it was a good song, but we didn't with the singer change want to have like the softest song in our career either, because we want to present ourselves as a metal band.
Yeah.
So it was kind of skipped from that album to be delayed to this one strategically. So that was basically done early on. And then we had the EP songs, which was Seth and Gaia. They're now bonus tracks on the album. They were to test the production, like the recording studio, we decided, and Buster Odeholm as a mix master for our music, and we were blown away by his work from the EP. So it was like love at first sight when we decided
That's good.
this is where we're gonna end up in. And we never did an album in the same studio or with the same producer ever in the band. So we try to keep ourselves out from any comfort zones and just move around and pick up as much experience and influences from producers as possible. I think that's a pretty nice feature with the band, that we're very open-minded when it comes to that, like picking up new influences and angles from producers instead of getting stuck in one studio with the same producer for all years, basically.
How's that helped like with the band with just doing like the writing and like the pre-production of a lot of these songs that you've like worked with so many different people?
No, I think it's like every producer have its own tricks and their own approach to ways. So you learn a lot and you try to filter out the best ways from it. So during our pre-productions, we're heavily influenced by our past producers in a way, and we just try to do best practice out from what they've taught us or what we picked up from those sessions in a way. Unfortunately, like we live all across Sweden, so mostly when pre-production comes, it's more of a Dropbox product where someone comes up with like a core of a song, and then we fill the blanks, the rest of us, and we structure it up together and have those Skype meetings to try to arrange around everything. It's working great for us, but it's not until we hit the live stages with the songs when we actually learn to play the shit. And there's like some friendly competition going on between Rille, our drummer, and our guitarist Jonathan, because he writes the weirdest fucking drum parts for Rille in his songs, and Rille tries to write the hardest guitar parts he can for Jonathan in his songs. And then when we come to a live situation, they have to work really hard to get them going. That's good. It's pushing it further every album, like
Right.
trying to take it to the next level.
How much of the structure of the song is done, before when you're going into the studio, and then what do you do in the studio?
Like we don't restructure the songs at all. Like we have a fixed formula for the songs and the arrangements in the studio. Because I'm pretty strict when it comes to like the whole lyric and vocal process, and that's why I want like the whole instrumental parts done before I even look at the song, or like or I try to do my parts of the song, because for me it's a lot about storytelling as well. So like if we do this, or I do something for unfinished work, and then something is like completely chopped off in the middle of that song, which was like super meaningful for the composition of the lyrics. then, then I get very frustrated. so we learned to handle that with having pretty like final pre-productions when of the instrumentals when we're writing the lyrics and doing the vocal arrangements. Of course, there's like tweaks here and there, but very seldom there's like completely cuts of entire parts or because we're really down with the song and Jonathan is a producer and mixer himself, so we have the finest pre-production versions of the song, so it's very representative when we can listen to it in that state before we record it. So we already know like, yeah, this part is gonna work, or it's only gonna get better in like a professional studio environment. So everyone have their own home studio, and we just shoot files at each other all day long.
So you basically like the band. So basically, you have like a format that you want the backing music to be, and then you're able to write lyrics to that.
Yeah, always like I know because we have a conceptual story going on. Like let's say like 5 songs of the album is like conceptual stories, and it's like that for all the albums we write. So and I want to drive that story forward with the lyrics, of course, and also there's like the entire text you can find in the booklets, or the entire book, if that's what you want to call it. It's pretty long. So I don't know, it's just really convenient when you sit down to write, and I always start with the chorus, for example, because I'm under the impression if you can't figure out the chorus correctly and do it hooky and hitty, then there's no point to do the rest of the song in a way. So,
right.
So we start there, and then I work chronologically and try to build it up like story-wise from verse 1 to the final part, basically. And that's just like how our process looks. And usually, like someone have figured out chorus melody. It could be anyone in the band, basically. Most of the time, it's Jonathan because he's doing the clean vocals, but also Rille have contributed to a lot of vocal melodies on this album, and I've done a couple of as well. So it's like it's up for grabs in the pre-production phase. And everyone can contribute, and we just judge it from there. Like when the 4 of us sit down and listen through the material, and like, this is the strongest melody, let's go for that one. And then I write the lyrics to that one.
Right. To kind of wind things down, what do you hope your fans get out of this new album?
I think there's going to be a bit of everything for everyone, and I mean we're pretty close contact with the fans, and we already got some feedback going some months ago when showing it to some people that we know love our music historically, and they've been really mind blown about the album. So I think there's good parts ahead, and as said, both the singles have got really good response. So
yeah.
So, I mean, we have the fans that like the heavier parts of our music, and also fans that are a bit more. There's something going on here. Hello?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Can you hear?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, it was some beeping going.
Oh.
Okay. So I think they're just gonna get more of what they already got from like Seth, Crown Prince Syndrome, and Never Yield. It's a great range on the album. I like how it opens up with because as I said, we have 3 songwriters in like the instrumental parts, and the album opens up pretty smart with the first song is like Jonathan's song, the second one is Richard's song, and the third one is Roger's song. So you get the entire range because they come from a bit different schools when they write music. So you kind of get the range there, and then it just goes on from that moment.
Nice.
So it's a bit more taking a wide turn on this album than the previous ones, but I think everyone's going to be happy in the end.
Right. Well, the new album rips. I'm really digging it. Really digging the video for Crown Prince Syndrome. As soon as I heard it, I'm like, yo, this is awesome. And so like, good luck with everything. I'm really happy with the album. Before we get out of here, where can people go online to get more information about the Unguided and the new album, Father Shadow?
I would say just one part about the whole music videos, because it's a performance video, as you saw.
Yeah.
and I think like previously, before the pandemic, people thought that was pretty boring and they wanted CGI and like big stuff to happen. But now, during the pandemic, where people miss live shows so much, like a performance video is super effective.
Right, dude. And it's just like I love what people are. I love what people are trying to do with those. They're trying to be as creative as possible with having to deal with whatever policies are going on in the pandemic, or like I was interviewing the drummer from the band Varg, and they basically had to go, like, for their last video, they had to like quickly film it like out, like they were near like a beach or whatever, near some water.
Okay.
And they had to like, it was like guerrilla style. They just had to go out there, do it, and quickly get out of there because it was against the law right now to be filming like that. So like it's kind of fun the some of these videos and the stories behind them, because you're getting really creative. But then like you said, like people are like really digging just seeing the band perform.
Yeah, I mean, the entire world is deprived of live shows. So, like, if you can get a performance video out, it's like the closest you can get at this moment.
Yeah,
pretty effective.
Everybody's bringing out the live footage from previous tours. Yeah. We're gonna put out a live album, or we're gonna just put out a live video. Like remind you, that this existed.
Yeah.
But where can people go online and get more information about the band and about the new album, anything that's coming up, outside, with dealing with the release of this album?
I would say like all official spaces. The Unguided.com is a good way to keep yourself updated. Also like our Facebook and Instagram, and Twitter is actually updated regularly. So that's where you find most of the information on a regular basis.
Thank you for listening to the Fresh is the Word podcast, hosted and produced by myself, Kelly K. Fresh Frazier, empowered by Anchor at anchor.fm/Fresh is the Word. Fresh is the Word theme music provided by Steve O. You can find more of his productions at iamsteveo.bandcamp.com, and that's EYEAMSTEVEO.bandcamp.com. Fresh is the Word is available on all major streaming platforms. Please rate and review on Apple Podcasts and Stitcher. If you want to support Fresh is the Word, please consider pledging via Patreon at patreon.com/Fresh is the Word. Follow Fresh is the Word on social media, on Twitter at Fresh is the Pod, on Instagram at Fresh is the Word Podcast, and join the Facebook group at facebook.com/groups/Fresh is the Word. For more information about Fresh is the Word and our other podcasts, Breaking Records and Renaissance Soul, and a collection of pop culture articles and reviews, please visit freshasthepodcast.com. Thank you for listening and your support. Goodbye and good night.
Fresh is the word.